Cool. Yeah, this is it. There's mushrooms. There's a character.
Yeah.
There's some trees. That's pretty cool.
This episode is sponsored by Zyro. Zyro is a cool online website builder that's perfect for making your portfolio. I like Zyro because it's super easy to use, it's the most affordable option on the market, and they offer 24/7 customer support with real humans, not bots. They even have this super cool AI website builder that allows you to generate a website to fit your needs. Pair that with their heat map functionality, and you can figure out the best way to design the perfect website. For a limited time only, get an exclusive discount plus 3 months free with any yearly plan. All you gotta do is use my code Jesse, Jesse, or click the link in the description. Thank you, Zyro, for sponsoring this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jesse Nyberg Podcast. Today we're here with Ashley Dreyfus. Super excited to talk to her. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Not bad. It's a little hot. I don't know what happened, but we just got this crazy heat wave in LA. It's supposed to be above 90 today.
You know, I wish that it was like that where I live. I'm in Boise, Idaho, and right now we have this crazy kind of windstorm passing through. And that's kind of what's been happening for the past few days. And it's still cold. You can still kind of see.
Is it really cold over there usually?
I mean, yes, we do have winters per se, but more recently, of course, we've had drought and less snow and kind of less of a winter. So it's pretty depressing during the winter time when you can't see any green outside.
Is it so? Does it usually snow on a normal year?
Oh, definitely. And we'll have little bits here and there. Where I grew up, it's a small ski town called Sun Valley. We would have pretty decent snowstorms when I was growing up, but it's kind of hit or miss every year. But being in Idaho, you are at a higher elevation, so you do get snow no matter what.
What have you kind of been doing this week, or have you been working on anything cool?
Oh, always. Yeah. So currently I've just been working on a lot of random stuff, t-shirt designs. I do a lot of painting, working on painting some boots for a really cool small business called Zigzag Goods. So we're going to drop them pretty soon. But otherwise, just planning throughout the year, some mural projects and all sorts of stuff. So this week has kind of been a lot of that.
That's dope. What kind of, what do you do on a given day if you're not working on anything for a commission or a project? Do you just have a routine to create your own stuff?
Definitely. Yeah. So a lot of my work, I would say, is my own doing. Kind of the way I started my business, or just creating my style in general, is that I make time for myself to be able to draw and work on something that's completely my own every single day. And then I eventually post it to Instagram. So that's kind of what I do when I'm not working on commissions. But I'm constantly in this creative mindset to be doing something like that, because that's just how my brain works. Yeah,
it's good though. That's a good mindset to have, because I noticed I heard it takes I think 21 days or something to build a habit. So if you're doing drawing or doing some kind of personal art every day for that long, you'll be easy enough to keep doing it. But it's also easy enough to, if you fall into some kind of rut or something and you don't make anything for that many days, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to get back into that same routine and everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I tell people about what I do and how committed I am to it, most people think that it just kind of happened overnight. But, there's always going to be ups and downs and a lot of twists and turns to becoming full-time art and creating every single day. But once you're in it, it's really hard to get out of it. So it feels really good.
What's can you kind of tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into art, and if you went to school or anything like that?
Yeah. So basically my story, I've always loved doing art from a very young age, but throughout high school, I kind of realized that the path of art school and further education wasn't going to be my thing. I kind of struggled with other academics, struggled to be able to read and focus during math class. And so, when I was 18, I really just hunkered down. I decided to stay in Boise after graduating. I got myself a job at Baskin Robbins, was making $7.25 an hour.
Damn.
But so the ultimate goal in mind for me at that age was to just buy myself like a cheap Wacom tablet, be able to plug it into my computer and watch YouTube tutorials and teach myself how to draw digitally. I've always loved like cartooning and creating kind of like vibrant artwork that has a bit of a twist to it. Right. So I just kind of like knew from a very young age that I knew I like wanted to make this my full-time thing one day. But I'm like kind of straying off track. But so I kind of just like decided that I was going to sit down and draw something new every single day, in the hopes that I could create like my own style and my own branding. And since then, I've been doing that now for 6 years, and I've been able to get like amazing commissions throughout that, be able to meet awesome people, and just honestly like make it as much as like myself as possible instead of it being more of a brand. It's just something that I've always loved.
Right. I mean, you've done it, and you came a long way from scooping ice cream for $7.25.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? That's still the minimum wage in Idaho.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because even when I was in high school, it was lower than now, but it was still, I think, like 11 or something like that in California.
Yeah, we'll get there one day, or maybe not. But otherwise, like, I'm good.
Yeah, for sure. I really like the style you work in. I think your illustrations, like, they're very kind of like surreal and like imaginative, but they're also like comforting at the same time. Like, they don't have like this like eeriness to them, like a lot of kind of like strange illustrations I see. And I'm wondering, when did you kind of start working in that like certain style? Was that from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Even from like some of my my earliest drawings that I made like as a child, you could just see that I loved everything color wise. Everything but the kitchen sink is kind of like my motto. But my style in general really like came to be when I was, again, like 18, 19. I've loved like drawing fictional beings, kind of like monsters. I love cats. So you'll see like a lot of that in my work. But the characters themselves that I create are considered alter egos of humans. So they kind of live in this world where there's no judgment or feeling like attached to one style or anything like that. And so it's my perception of how I see the world on a daily basis.
That's cool.
So you'll see like within a lot of my work, the ideas are based off of things that have actually happened in my life.
When did you kind of come up with the alter ego character, like originally when you first started doing art, or like what kind of spawned that besides like, I know you said, it's kind of based off your life and like I read somewhere that it's kind of the, like how we would be if we're stripped from all the like outside influence and kind of ego and all this stuff. And I'm curious kind of how you came up with that idea.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. The name alter ego came long after I actually was drawing the character, but it was just one day when I was drawing like one of my first zines. I used to be like really into more of like cartoon strips and creating like handmade like little coloring books and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, actually I have a tattoo of like the first alter ego that I ever made. Let's see. I'm trying to like, it's this guy right here. Yeah. So I mean, it's like fun to reflect back on where it first kind of stemmed and where it is now, because there's so many different versions of the character from when I first started drawing it. But I immediately just became obsessed with it. And then eventually it just felt right for me to name it like an alter ego. Actually, my mom, who helps run my business partially with me, was the one who came up with that name. And we just felt like it resonated a lot with the theme of everything that I was drawing and like how it kind of came to be every day. Yeah,
it's always fun to look at because the head is like a hand kind of. I feel like that's like what it reminds me of.
I think what's really funny about it too is how people perceive its face or anything like that, but they sort of resonate with the character no matter if they know the name or like the origin or anything like that. Right. I kind of want my artwork to be perceived like however somebody wants it to look, but as long as they enjoy it.
Yeah, and I feel like you have like you've done a good job at having that common thread that kind of connects a lot of your work throughout like different pieces. Like a lot of the themes and stuff can be quite different, but something about the way you draw like the alter ego or the colors, it all feels very like you made it, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. It's always been like a journey. Every day when I wake up, I never know what's going to like be pen to paper. I currently like work on an iPad. I graduated from working off of the tablet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, whether I'm into drawing something that's a bit more abstract or something more focused on like maybe an outdoor environment or something specific, it's always just really fun to look back on pieces and even like reimagine things as I move forward.
Yeah. What I've noticed, some of your work will have like, it'll just be the illustrations itself, and other ones will incorporate like some kind of typography and like phrases or quotes and things. And what's your kind of thought process behind that? Like what will make you want to include text or not? Yeah,
I mean, again, it kind of depends day by day. I am very much like an advocate for like mental health and being as open as possible with people about how I'm feeling day-to-day basis. And so like when I use quotes in my artwork, it's truly like helpful to me to remind myself that like everything is going to be okay as long as I'm moving forward and feeling good about the things I am doing, like the steps that I am taking in my life to feel good and surround myself with good people. So yeah, that's kind of like my thought process with whether I do incorporate text or don't in my artwork. But it always has kind of a theme to it or like an intention in mind, whether like I let people know what's going on in my life or not. It always just feels like it's right to me.
I also feel like the text stuff just works well with like social media and things. Like people are a lot more likely to, even if they like the art, if it has a message they like too, it's like a double bonus, and they'll like share it more often or like send it to people, and it may resonate with them a little bit more.
Definitely. Yeah. Like with my art, especially during the pandemic, I noticed that a lot of people, you know, were spending more time online, blah, blah, blah. But I really felt as if I wanted to be able to do something for my community, whether I could go outside or not. So it really inspired me to create more positivity throughout the internet if people are otherwise doom scrolling. So it's definitely like, you know, a bonus to be able to get like all those extra likes and shares and stuff. But as long as people genuinely enjoy it and they read it and feel as if it can put them on their best foot forward every single day, that's kind of like my goal.
How is it living in like Boise and in terms of like the art scene and the creative scene? You obviously must like it enough to have been there this whole time.
Yeah, like I've been living here now for 8 years, and honestly, I love it here. It's very small and tightly knit, but it's constantly growing. You'll notice like a lot of Californians actually moving here, and it's kind of coined as, it's kind of coined as the fastest growing city in America currently, because outside of like the bounds of like downtown Boise, it's just like farmland and greenery and what we call foothills. So you kind of notice a lot of people are moving here with the intention of like building up the city rather than kind of appreciating it for what it is. But on a more positive note, I have noticed that a lot of really great creative people have moved here since the kind of like Boise boom has happened.
Yeah. Was that with the pandemic, or was that just like in general, people have been moving there?
Definitely in general. I can't quite put my finger on why. It's become like a more central place for like corporations to move to, or people to, you know, work remotely out of Boise. But it's such a beautiful place. Like during the summertime, Boise is considered like the city of trees. So you'll kind of like notice that theme throughout like the city. But it's a very, again, like small, tightly knit. I live like 5 minutes from the downtown area. So you can literally drive somewhere and be there within 5 minutes. So that's not a bad thing at all. But I do really love like the urban landscape of like Los Angeles.
Have you thought about, like, do you have any intention on moving anywhere else anytime soon, or not really?
Well, okay. I will make this announcement formally right now. I'm actually planning to move to Los Angeles in August, which is a really huge decision for me to make, but I'm really stoked about like the opportunity that it brings. I also have like a lot of incredible friends down there already. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what that might bring, like opportunity wise, and not to mention living in like a different place versus where you grew up is, it's just full of opportunity and fun and adventure. And I'm really excited for that.
That's cool. Well, thank you for dropping the news here. It's a cool little breaking announcement.
Yeah, official announcement over here.
It's funny that then everyone's going in there, but now you're giving someone someone can fill your spot now in Boise, you know? So there's not too many people trading them out, at least when everyone's moving there. Yeah,
definitely. But, kind of like referring back to what you were asking earlier, I did want to mention kind of why I stuck around like after high school and stuff. I noticed that there is just like so much opportunity within our community in Boise. Yeah. And I wanted to see the types of people that I could meet, kind of like building myself from where I was planted, kind of like going off of that. Again, when I was like 18, I just would go out and I would talk to people at coffee shops. I would reach out to people over Instagram. But my ultimate goal in mind was to hopefully build up the Boise art scene and help create new opportunities for younger people like me. Maybe have them stick around Boise and see what their outlets were versus just moving straight to like a big city right at 18 and maybe feeling more overwhelmed about their goals of becoming an artist or a creator of some sort.
It seems like the city too, like I was trying to do a little recon and looking at some of the articles and things you did, and compared to some other artists that I've kind of looked into that live in like not the giant like cities, it seems that they've really kind of embraced you as like one of their, artists that they really respect and kind of are proud to be like, oh yeah, like she's from Boise, like all the articles were like Boise's own, like Dreyfus and stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm very proud to like tell people where I come from because otherwise most people don't even know where it is on the map. So I really see it as like a cool opportunity to tell people like what's going on here and how much work there is like needing to be done as far as like creating community and just being able to like push people out there and help them get those opportunities as soon as possible rather than, I don't know, keep it like locked tight community or how do I put it?
Like you get what I mean. Or something.
Yeah, like gatekeeping. Exactly. Everybody has a place and I want to make sure that everyone is seen and heard. Even if it's a really small place, like there's just so much that we can do to like help people. I've even kind of noticed like coming from a small place, it's felt a lot easier to fall into other communities of people in different cities. Like, again, I've met so many people just through Instagram and now I'm able to like travel and actually get to hang out with everybody.
I'm excited to travel more, like, because I feel like I've met the bulk of the people I know online like the past few years. So it's obviously was like a lot more disconnected to like hang out in real life and stuff. So I'm excited that now that I know a lot of people in different areas, if I'm ever in that spot, you always have someone to be like, let's grab coffee or whatever it may be. I wanted to say like, what made you decide, I guess, like, you said you wanted to come out here for like different people, and opportunities and stuff. What was kind of your plan going into like why you wanted to move and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been an idea like in the back of my mind, but pretty much at the end of last year, it just became like more and more apparent that I love what I see here in this city, but there's just so much going on out in the world. And I'm 24, just to like,
okay, me too.
Mention that too. Yeah. And, you only like live this life once as far as you know. And so my kind of intention with it is like go and see what it's like.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, then there's other options. But of course, just being closer to like more action stuff just sounds really exciting to me. So that's cool. Kind of like the intention with it.
Do you know what area you're going to?
Definitely love like Atwater Village and cool. Glendale. So, you know, kind of like farther away from all of the craziness of West Hollywood and, you know, downtown, but really easily accessible from that area too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I live in Hollywood and my girlfriend works in Glassville Park, which is like near Atwater and Glendale and all that. And it feels far away, but it's really not. It's only like, you know, a few miles. It's just with traffic sometimes and whatnot. But it's cool to, yeah, like I get that. Sometimes being like right up in here, it feels like a lot, but I also like it. It's a weird like bittersweetness, you know, like the best parts about living in the city are like what are also not the good parts, but I think they outweigh the bad in the long run, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. And I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm going to flip flop in a couple months and be like, hey, let's just go and say fuck it and move to West Hollywood or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely like no hate.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you definitely about the PBR thing, because that's how I'm sure you talked about it, you know, quite a bit now, but that was the first time I had seen your work before, but then I saw that again. And that's when I saw like it caught my attention again. And then it was one of those things where I saw it and then I actually started seeing it like at the store too. So it was like a weird thing. I was like, oh damn, this shit's everywhere. I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about how that whole experience was and like winning the contest and how it felt to have your art on like such a massive scale like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very surreal feeling, just to kind of like wrap it all up and say it in 2 words. But, you know, the entire process itself, I've only entered this national contest like one other time and I didn't even like hear back from them. So I was honestly in total shock when I found out I was in the top 25. I was pretty content with just like sitting at that.
Yeah.
That's where like things kind of like left off. But yeah, I mean, initially when I was creating the design, I just felt as if it was like one of the best pieces that I've ever produced. Like it just felt like powerful in some way. Like it, like when I submitted it, I was just like, this just feels really good. So yeah, it was again, like a huge surprise when they reached out and were like, hey, you're in the top 25. And then eventually like top 5 and everything. But yeah, like initially winning the contest, I really didn't know what was going to come with it. I've worked on amazing projects in the past that have gotten me a lot of like recognition and further connections. But this truly was just like the cherry on top for me. I've always wanted to see my artwork on that kind of scale. So to be able to design something and see that gratification just meant a lot to me. And again, like to be able to represent Boise just felt really good to me too. Yeah,
that's dope. I mean, it's so cool being able to like, this is a small aspect of it, but even just like taking the pictures with the billboards and holding the beer case and shit like that just kind of like validates it all, you know, and it must feel like really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like it meant like so much to already win the contest, but to actually walk into the grocery store and notice the actual cases and the 16-ounce cans on the shelf. That was really defining to me.
Yeah, for sure. Did you talk to any of the like other 25 people? Like, did you know who they were when that was happening, or was it just like a number?
Yeah, no, I actually knew a few people that were among the top 25, including another artist. His name was Holden Mesk, and he actually got second place.
Oh, okay.
And then I also knew there's a guy named Dylan. He's also an illustrator, but you know, alongside all of the other 24 people in the contest, it was really amazing to see the types of artwork that they were kind of looking into choosing for like the contest. And I'm really glad that they're kind of going more for like an illustrative design versus something that, you know, is a bit more like either text-based or just like very corporate looking.
Right.
I think that like PBR does a great job of their advertising and being able to compensate their artists fairly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they've really, I think, done a good job at realizing that they can find this little niche where like they're like, oh, we're the people for artists and stuff, and like it's already like a hipster ass beer, I feel like, in like East LA and shit, so like it all makes sense for them to just kind of double down on that and be like an artist type driven thing.
Yeah, for sure. I have already seen it kind of like inspire other beer brands to also host their own types of contests or, you know, work with more like small businesses or artists to create like more of a collaboration rather than just put out like, you know, shitty beer on the shelves and kind of act like people are just going to buy it no matter what. Right. So just, again, it like adds a little bit more spice to it. And I love that.
Mm-hmm. What's it like? This is a different kind of topic, but what's it like doing, cause looking at a lot of your work, what's it like doing the murals? Like, is that process, a lot different from than when you're just like creating something at like a, you know, paper or like canvas size scale?
Yeah, definitely. So like murals, I mean, it's really like interesting explaining how to paint a mural to someone who has never painted a mural. I mean, like blowing up a design to be like 10 times the scale of like how it is on paper is something that you have to just experience rather than explain to somebody. So honestly, like muraling is some of my favorite like mediums to work with in art. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to paint my first mural right out the gate when I was 19. And just from there, I really was like inspired to go out and hopefully get more opportunities like that. So yeah, I work with house paint, but more primarily now, I work with just like spray paints.
How did you first get those kind of opportunities? Because that doesn't like I see murals all the time out here, but I'm always curious how like these small businesses approach artists to create them, you know?
Yeah, it all depends. I think like for most murals, mostly like in cities, I'm not quite sure how it works like outside of Boise, but here you have to like work with like a business, but you also have to get the approval of our arts and history department from our city council. That's kind of like how small it is here. Yeah. We have like a lot of older architecture in Boise. So it's kind of like either hands off or it has to be like kind of thought out by like our city council before anything can happen. But yeah, like as far as in general, like getting a mural opportunity, it's pretty much like the whole process of getting reached out to, coming up with the design, and then conceptualizing how it works with the business, like in general, or even like the space that you're painting. So it's a really fun challenge.
Yeah. Do people talk to you a lot when you're doing it outside?
Definitely. Yeah. I've had some really funny conversations with people, been offered all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just really funny being on like ground level, standing outside for like 8 to 9 hours a day. Yeah. You just never know who's going to pass by and like what they're going to talk to you about.
Yeah. I feel like it'd make me nervous because I already get nervous when someone I feel like's looking at my like laptop or some shit when I'm in like a coffee shop. And that's like the most big scale you could get is like doing a giant outdoor painting.
Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of zone out. I feel like interviews are a lot harder for me versus just getting out and actually like putting paint to a wall. I'm very good at standing behind the artwork, but once I'm standing in front of it explaining it, it's a lot harder. It's kind of like the best way to explain it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think there's definitely like I've noticed two different types of people when it comes to like whatever you want to call it, like talking about their concepts or whatever and explaining their art. I feel like some people like they have it all and they know what they want to say, but they're like, I don't really know how to articulate it, so here's the thing, you know? And other people like the thing is good, but they're also just like so good at like jamming the actual like methodology into it that I'm like, oh shit, it's even more. Like I always feel like I'd have trouble like if I was in a museum, I'd have trouble writing the little thing that goes on like the side thing, you know? Little plaque or whatever you call it.
Yep. Yeah. Like artist bios, whenever I'm again, like doing interviews or writing out like a description for like a piece of artwork. Just kind of like, cool. Yeah, this is it. There's mushrooms. There's a character. There's some trees. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I feel like designers and artists, they definitely like downplay it a lot of the time, if anything. Like it could be this crazy like master plan and you're just like, yeah, I just kind of did it like this. I think that's why people that are like, maybe they don't do the medium that someone works in, or they're not an artist at all. I think that's why people are so interested in seeing like process work and things like that on social media, because they don't even really like, some people don't even know like what went into it. So then seeing the actual creation is like, oh shit, like that's just explaining it for itself, you know, in like real time or time lapse or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with the world of like TikTok and kind of like process like videos being more popular these days, I find it very difficult to kind of like present myself versus just my artwork. So yeah, like I find it very relieving when I watch interviews of like other artists talking and they sound, you know, just about the same as you, because in your mind you feel like you're crazy when you're, you know, all nervous and doing like things in the moment. But you know, just kind of like cool to realize like you're not alone and everybody's just kind of like on their own path to create, and like everything else is just like adding to it. Right.
Even when I do these, like I've done a bunch of these and I'm the like host or whatever you want to call it, and sometimes I'll do like the whole thing and I'm like, damn, like I kind of just blacked out. Like I hope that interview went well, you know, because I'm more trying to worry about making sure like I ask the right questions and the guest is comfortable, that I'm not thinking even about what my own like thoughts are going on and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is me to a T. I'll get done with something and immediately be like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
This is not one of those instances, by the way. Okay. I feel very comfortable right now.
That's good. That's good. What's I was going to ask you, like, do you find it weird to switch between like the digital mediums and the physical mediums? And like, if you're just drawing, like, let's say on a 8x10 or whatever, right? Do you prefer it being physical now or like on Procreate or like on the iPad?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, because for a while I actually was just working like in a sketchbook. My process of drawing would be like working on like pen and paper, scanning it into my computer, and for a while would just like load it into Photoshop. And I loved like the grittiness of the lines and everything. Yeah. But nowadays, I think that they just kind of like work hand in hand as mediums. I love like either being able to work on like a painting one day, or, you know, grab like my iPad and go to a coffee shop. It's just really cool to have different options as far as like creating. But I don't think that any medium is a wrong medium, as long as you feel passionate about it. Right.
A lot of the stuff you post on Instagram that's not like taken in real life, I guess, like where it's just a square, like cropped, is that a lot of that digital, or are you like scanning in drawings that are like physical illustrations?
Meaning like the things that just like I post on Yeah. So right now I work in Procreate on my iPad.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I kind of transitioned to that back in 2020. I was able to afford my first iPad, and it's changed my life ever since.
Was the I've talked to different people and they've had anywhere from like super easy to like it took them a while. Was the learning curve for you like pretty easy, or did it take you a while to adjust to like the digital like screen drawing?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, it's always really difficult at first, but as long as you go into it with an open mind, the program's really cool because you're able to tailor it to how you want to work. Right. So through like a bunch of like questioning other friends, kind of like YouTubing, or like looking up things on YouTube. Yeah. I think YouTubing's the verb for looking up things on. You know what? Let's just look it up on the old dictionary. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it was all just kind of like do it yourself for me. Okay. I feel like it's fun to look back in my Instagram feed for sure, because at one point, like I was doing it a lot differently than I do now, but it's cool to like appreciate where I kind of came from that, and like how how far I've come and like how much I enjoy it now, and like how much easier and more natural the feeling of like drawing is now.
Do you have a favorite medium out of like all the different things you've worked in?
It's always like the hardest question to answer, but I just love like simple marker and paper, or like pen and paper is always like really limitless and freeing. You're just able to, go off and start like drawing something, and there's never like a rhyme or reason to it. Even if you like make a wrong curve in your line, it's always just like fun looking and, cartoonish.
Right. Have you, I feel like your work also translates well to like different mediums. Like you could use like acrylic, spray paint, digital. Like it doesn't seem like you have that hard of a time like switching between the ones and just figuring out which like medium works for whatever you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. I love that like my work can translate to any medium. And even if it feels as if it's like challenging, I find a way around it, and I just kind of like work through it. Even if there feels like there's an error within like the process, it's still like fun to look back on it and see it as like, an opportunity or something that I can kind of like base myself off of and move forward.
Right.
Like last week, I randomly stumbled upon my first spray paint mural. And, like anything, it's never going to be perfect. You see like a lot of wobbly lines, a lot of like paint dripping off the wall, but it's just really cool. I love like getting to look back at my stuff like that.
Since the community you were saying there is like pretty tight knit, and you've done like a good amount of murals and different things in Boise, do a lot of people like recognize you and things like that if you're just out in like the downtown?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that too. Like last week we had our own music festival in Boise. It's called Treeport Music Fest. And in years prior, like I've had people, come up to me and be like, "Oh, hey, like, are you Dreyfus?"
Yeah.
But like more recently, like last year, I dyed my hair orange and like really went crazy with like my closet. Started embracing a lot more color. And so yeah, like more recently, I definitely had a lot more people come running down the street and be like, "Oh my God, you're Dreyfus. Like, I need to get a picture with you."
That's cool.
It feels like very surreal because, in my mind, I'm like, I'm Ashley, like I'm just a silly human being that, gets to do art for a living every day. But I'm just really stoked that people kind of like see me as something more than, just a person. It really means a lot.
It's so, I'm not very good at that. Like, it doesn't happen to me often, but I've had like 3 or 4 people come up to me out here just saying like, "Oh, I watch like your YouTube videos, or I watch your podcast," or whatever. And I'm very uncomfortable like around that. Like, I don't know if it's just like general uncomfortableness or like imposter syndrome or whatever, but I never know what to say. And I always feel like hopefully I don't come off like rude, but I'm kind of always just like, "Oh, like, thank you." But like, I don't really know where to go from there, because then we're just standing there and I'm like, "All right, well, I gotta go," or something.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, I have massive imposter syndrome when it comes to like owning up to like being the actual person behind the art. But all in all, I love like getting to meet people, hear their story, and be able to like hear about their own process and like what they hope to do like with their art if they're like a creative type as well.
Yeah. And I try to be cool because I do the same thing. Like, I was at this show and I met this designer. His name's like HK. He did all the stuff for like Brockhampton and everything. And he's like really dope. And I saw him and I was like, "Oh, like shit." And I went and talked to him and I was that person. And then 5 minutes later, that happened to me. So it was like, there was just like levels to it. Like, that person came up to me and then I was nervous to go to that person. And I'm sure that person is nervous about talking to some other person even higher up, Yeah,
like you'll never know how somebody's going to react, but I do think like the sincerest form of flattery is like actually complimenting somebody on their work.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, yeah, I've definitely walked up to people and massively fangirled and then look back at it and be like, "Oh man, you really overdid that."
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you too, because we were talking about the PBR thing, but also what has been one of your other, like, out of the different commissions and brands you've worked with, what has been like your best experience? If it's that one, then other than that one. Yeah,
I mean, there's been so many. Like, I definitely would have to go through like my portfolio and be like, this one was the best one.
Yeah.
But really cool commission that I had the opportunity to work on last year was with an artist named Grizz, if you're familiar with him. He's like a really big musician. I don't know.
Okay. I'm not. Yeah. I'm sure. I believe you. I don't know.
It's all good. Yeah. I'm terrible at naming genres, but definitely like really big in the electronic and like EDM scene.
Right.
But yeah, I got to work on like a series of posters for his music festivals that he was putting on last year. And that was cool. Like a really defining like experience for me, just because I don't necessarily lend my work to other people's like festivals and things like that often.
Right.
It was just very new to me. When I usually work on things, it's just like Dreyfus branded.
Right.
So it was cool to kind of like wrap my head around that and kind of work in almost like a different sort of mindset than I'd otherwise. But other cool experiences. Oh man. Like I've worked with the band Fish as well.
Oh, cool.
And that was like very early on. And I don't know, kind of like the buildup of my entire business.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like really good people and really good experiences all around.
It makes sense.
Kind of like hard to pinpoint all of it.
Right. I mean, I know it's kind of like asking when people are like, who's your favorite like band or something. It's kind of hard to think of when you just imagine like everything. That's interesting what you said about the commission being when you did the stuff for Grizz, more like a client like project or whatever, because I feel like that's where there's like the kind of difference and a little bit it's getting blurred more and more, but between like a commissioned art piece versus like I don't know, like a design project, like a client is, I feel like when you're more of a traditional artist or whatever you want to call it, like it's more like, here's this, we pay you, like do your thing and then it's done, and it's like, oh, this is like Dreyfus art and that's it, versus like with design you're more like doing your thing, but it's like it's for them, rather than like whatever you want type of thing.
It's definitely a lot different, especially for me, like being self-taught. Every commission or project that I've ever worked on has always been through my own like doing.
Yeah.
I've never, like gone to classes or gone to school for business or anything like that.
Right.
So it's truly like me teaching myself like as I go. I got to work on like this really interesting project with like Roku recently.
Oh, okay.
I am not like super experienced with like animation and making GIFs, but that was what this project was like geared towards.
Oh, okay.
So like working on something that's kind of in the middle, I would say, like in terms of being design work and being illustration work. It's kind of like fun to like waver back and forth from that, but have like a lot of creativity and freedom like throughout working on the projects.
So that was for like the actual, what do you call it? Like the app or whatever, like the Roku TV like thing like that.
So the GIFs are actually like available on Instagram. So like you can put the stickers like on your stories and stuff.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to this other dude, like, Matt Voice is his name, and he makes like all these like typography GIFs, and he was telling me, I guess, like he did all these ones for Facebook and all this stuff, and at one point he was like the most used it's like Giphy or whatever is like the platform, and he was the number one like Giphy person, and it was like 1 billion uses or something on his shit, and I was like, that's insane.
That is so cool. Yeah, I don't know if I could ever necessarily get to that peak, but like that is just so admirable. And yeah, I love his work too.
Yeah.
Really cool guy.
For sure. When do you think, you were saying like some of this stuff that was like validating and kind of like a big moment for you as an artist, when would can you pinpoint any kind of area or time in your life when it was like a big turning point where you felt like you kind of became like, I don't know, getting a lot more clients or a lot more like recognition and things like that? Yeah,
I mean, like a turning point in general, I would say like around the time of the pandemic starting, it was, it's surprisingly like it really made artists blow up like through social media and really have like their voices come forward. So yeah, I mean, this like really means like nothing, but being at like 8,000 followers and then immediately jumping to like 50,000 followers within 2 months was like a really crazy defining time in my business.
Yeah.
Having people order more things on my website and show interest in like projects and things like that. I would really say like that was a turning point for me. But otherwise, I mean, there are so many like different experiences I could mention as far as like how things like kind of came to be and like how it's led up to this point for me.
Yeah, I feel you. I did my this whole like, I don't know, content creation side or whatever you want to call it of my business started in like the pandemic as well. That's when I started YouTube and the podcast and like just posting more like reels and shit like that. And it is pretty like interesting to see like I had a similar thing where I just started doing reels and posting a lot more online, and I went from like 10,000 to like 30 or whatever, and it was only in like a few months, but it took me like whatever, like 8 years or whatever before that to get the first like 5,000. It's pretty interesting how it all works.
Yeah, I mean, but it's all good things too. You definitely realize that like those people that have followed you are real people and are not just bots and fake accounts.
Right.
So it feels really good to like now be able to have like the following of people who are interested in like seeing what you're up to and like be able to interact with them once in a while. Right.
And it's also interesting to talk with people that don't really use like the social media and stuff as a business, because sometimes they'll say things like, well, it doesn't matter number wise, but it does matter because those numbers also can translate to like supporting other parts of your work, like if you're selling things or getting more commissions or whatever. So like, it's a weird feeling because like you don't want to care about it too much because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, but it does matter towards like using that as like a tunnel to supporting your other shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to people in the past that are totally anti social media at all. And I think that it's at least important to value that like people are on their phones and they are interested in like seeing what's going on out in like the big wide world. So, being able to like share the art every day and have it be really accessible through free apps like Instagram or TikTok, I think it's very meaningful in its own way.
Right. And you did one of the like 365 things, right? A while ago.
Yeah. So actually, I've been doing that since I was 19. So I've been drawing every single day and posting to Instagram. So that's like honestly how this entire thing came to be.
So it's 365 times like 5 or whatever.
Yeah. I'm on year 6 right now. That's wild. Crazy. It's just like, again, a part of my like everyday routine and feels like very natural to me.
Right. Have you ever, I guess nothing's gotten in the way of that ever? Hit that long?
Well, I mean, there's definitely days where like, oh man, it's like 8:00 at night. I haven't drawn all day. So I will kind of like go into my portfolio or just like my, the
archive or whatever.
My iPad. Yeah. That thing. Yeah. I'll just kind of like scroll through and see if there's anything that I can just kind of like share just to be like a placeholder. But if I'm not posting something that I immediately drew today, I will be posting something that maybe has otherwise been unreleased or is something that is like in the vaults.
Yeah.
But I always try to make time for myself every morning. I wake up at 7:00 on the dot and I get my coffee and I go sit with my cats and I draw every day.
That's some good discipline right there. I mean, if you're able to wake up at 7 every day, it makes sense that you're disciplined enough to draw and create something every day. Because when I went freelance, I was like 9 is the earliest I'm going to wake up from now on.
Yeah, like everyone has their own regimen. I love like being able to have a couple hours in the morning where I know I won't be receiving emails that like would otherwise cause like stress or make you feel like you have to drop everything to start working on that.
I feel like I'm like that in the other end of it. Like I like doing shit at like midnight, to like 2 or whatever. So kind of the same vibe, I guess, because no one's really bothering you at that time either, unless it's the weekend.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I actually use my evenings to paint most of the time.
Do you have anything kind of planned, like any personal things you're going to release or any kind of like fun projects coming up in the next month?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm actually wrapping up a really cool project in collaboration with a playing card company.
Oh,
so
dope.
I'll be producing a deck of playing cards.
That's cool.
Super exciting.
That's like,
Yeah,
that's one that always looks really like fun to see when people do those, because you get to make so many. Go 50, 52, right? Or something.
52, exactly. I will be, it's like not exactly 52. Like for every suit, it'll be like a different color or something like that. Yeah, but it's in the works.
That's
cool.
It's
really interesting to see that whole process versus kind of watching like other people share, like maybe they're doing like a collaboration of some sort in that way. Being like in the thick of the process and actually like sitting down and sketching out the entire theme in every single card. It's a really like cool disciplinary project.
Right.
So I'm stoked for it to come out in August.
Dope. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing more of the stuff you do. And I appreciate you coming on to talk with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. See you guys next time, everyone.